Hello, I'm Bernard Hickey from interest.co.nz and welcome to another economic weather report brought to you in association with the Bank of New Zealand. Today we look at a speech from Reserve Bank Governor Alan Bollard where he talked about New Zealand's terms of trade and what monetary policy should do about it. Let's step back a bit and try and explain what terms of trade means. New Zealand produces exports and we sell them for prices. We also import things and they have certain prices. The terms of trade measures the prices of our exports versus the prices of our imports. Essentially it says how much we can buy for every one thing of exports that we sell. And New Zealand's terms of trade have been on a rocket, particularly in the last couple of years, as commodity prices, for the things we sell at least, have been rising quite sharply. So that's prices for dairy, for meat, for wool. They've all been on a rise, whereas import prices haven't been rising so much. So that suggests that we've been getting relatively richer. However, at the same time, our currency has been rising. So even though prices may be rising in US dollar terms, because our New Zealand dollar has been rising at the same time, we don't get so much of a bang for our buck. Also, when the New Zealand dollar rises, it takes out some of the pain from rising commodity prices overseas. So what tends to happen when you have a free-floating currency is that it acts a bit like an automatic stabiliser. When commodity prices rise globally, we tend to get some of that benefit through from export price rises, but not all of it. We also don't get all of the pain from a rise in commodity prices such as oil prices around the world. So even though, let's say for example, in the last couple of weeks, oil prices have been rising over $110 a barrel for West Texas Intermediate, our petrol prices haven't risen so much in proportional terms because our currency has been rising. So, the Reserve Bank's had a good close look at what's happening with our commodity prices in the long term. That's for the ones we sell and for the things we buy. And what they've found is that our terms of trade have seen a structural improvement in the last couple of years. They say this isn't just a one-off thing where prices go up one year and down the next. They say that there's some structural reasons why our terms of trade have improved. Firstly, on the supply side, there is a lack of supply to deal with all the demand that's coming in from developing Asia and also developing Latin America. As people get richer in the likes of China and India, they tend to demand more protein, so more meat, more dairy products. And the Reserve Bank is saying that the ability of the world to supply this extra demand is going to be restricted, in part because a lot of the corn that's used these days is used to produce oil and energy for the Americans. So the Reserve Bank is saying, we just got lucky. New Zealand has seen a significant improvement in its terms of trade, and that in theory should make us all feel wealthier. However, there's a real question about what the Reserve Bank should do about it. If we see a boost in New Zealand's terms of trade and all this extra export revenue coming in, we could feel like it's time to go out spending. And particularly because import prices are restrained by this rising currency, we might think we'll use all this money we've got from our export returns and we'll buy them, we'll go on a spending spree and buy a bunch of imported stuff. The Reserve Bank is warning that if this boost, this windfall of export revenue turns into an inflationary surge, the Reserve Bank would act. But in reality, the Reserve Bank is saying it's going to take a hands-off approach to the currency. It's going to allow the currency to be an automatic stabiliser. In my personal view, I think this is a mistake. I think New Zealand is really struggling to be a really excellent exporter. Despite this shock, this boost to our terms of trade, we don't feel that much wealthier. And in fact, our GDP per capita has been falling since 2003, despite this boost in our terms of trade. Now, why is that? Well, we've borrowed a lot from the rest of the world, we've sold a lot of assets, and there's this continual drain of interest payments on foreign debt and dividends and profits that foreigners have on assets here. That means that we may well be richer as a nation, but we as individuals don't feel richer because many of the benefits of that extra wealth are going offshore. And also we have become less efficient at exporting in terms of our productivity, and that's the essential issue with New Zealand. Our productivity hasn't improved much. So, what does this all mean? I actually think the Reserve Bank needs to get involved in the currency. It needs to intervene to push it down and to take a strategic, almost nationalistic approach to managing our economy, to really focus on boosting exporting and discouraging importing. One way to do that is to have a currency that's down. I'm Bernard Hickey. That was a special economic weather report brought to you in association with Bank of New Zealand.